collective action in 2026. That is our superpower. That is something that each of us can do every single day to push back and to pull together. Collective action, just like the name suggests, that we do it together. The most looking back before we look forward, the most illustrative examples of that are unionization at the beginning of the 20th century. When you think back to the assembly line and Henry Ford and then General Motors. But, Henry Ford we think about as a magnificent innovator who was responsible for pushing our country forward as a manufacturing leader for an entire century or more. Also, one of the most despicable racists in corporate America's history, and it's a long and distinguished list. And your boy Elon is also featured prominently on the same list at the bookends of a very consequential century. But collective action, you think about Ford, GM, and what is now Stellantis. Right? That used to be in my youth Chrysler, and of course that went through different iterations of add Fiat, add Peugeot, remove X, Y, and Z, and you've got Stellantis. But the unions are still strong. United Auto Workers is still a force to be reckoned with. The legacy unions and organizations such as AFL-CIO, the unions that represent service workers, huge. I mean, you think about the industry that I spent so much time in my early life, in hotels and restaurants. The service workers unions were and remain very powerful and viable. Not what they once were, because kind of a Trump era litmus test would be any organization or corporation that wants to curry favor with the fascists would try to push back on organized labor, because that's part of the larger Project 2025 strategy. Is the disruption means that any opportunity that employees, and particularly employees from diverse communities, have to organize and gain greater power by the strength of their collective strength, then that would be contrary to the fascists' designs, the Project 2025 designs. The fascist label, fascist, the mentality in a social respect, in oppression and other characteristics, it just seems to be, that term seems to be a bit of a mismatch in a way, because now the Trump administration has shown some pretty profound communistic tendencies, the whole, taking a stake in publicly traded companies for Trump to exploit for corrupt purposes, but for the United States to hold a position in a corporation and thereby influence uh, collective bargaining, things like that, which they could do. For instance, if they could block the efforts of employees to unionize more aggressively if they were shareholders in certain corporations. That will become important as we take the next step with AI and the workplace changes so much. I'm not as concerned about Elon's robot army organizing, but I wish they would, and wish they would come back and take him away. But many of the stories in the last year that brought me so much joy were the ones that the stories of Disney on three different levels. You know, right before Trump took office, the employees at many of the theme parks organized to get better wages uh, and other benefits for their collective benefit. Um, but the one that got the most press, of course, was Jimmy Kimmel because uh, Disney owns ABC, and Jimmy Kimmel because they took heat and in the corrupt Trump organization uh, organs that threatened the show, threatened the network. That was one of the most inspirational examples of collective action, where you saw your fellow citizens canceling Disney Plus in large numbers and having an impact that rated in the billions from canceled Disney Plus subscriptions, which was just absolutely wonderful. I don't have a personal axe to grind with Mickey Mouse. I don't. I also don't have uh, uh, children or grandchildren that use the product. I'm a former ESPN acolyte, but there's so many other options to view sporting events, whether it's on YouTube or otherwise uh, these days. But it didn't directly impact me, so I didn't cancel Disney Plus because I didn't have it. But on Amazon, absolutely. You know, I decided that I didn't want to be part of financing Jeff Bezos's fourth or fifth wedding. And the way that he makes some good noises about workers' rights, but the track record, the way that people, particularly in the warehousing where they're assembling the orders, that the employees are getting driven very, very hard, and to the point of exhaustion, injury, and being forced to work um, a lot of hours without market level compensation. So there was a lot of pushback against Amazon in the past year, and there will be going forward. The other, it's employees on one level, but it's also a company that's that large. What are they doing in terms of government contracts? So much of Amazon's income is from the AWS, Amazon Web Services, and the contracts that they have with the Department of Defense and other governmental agencies. So the big guys, whether it's Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and also some of the security companies, Palantir and otherwise, compete ruthlessly for those contracts because they're billions and billions of dollars. And you know, we of course we live in a capitalist society. We are Americans, so we don't begrudge a woman or a man for earning a dollar by being successful in business, competing and earning a dollar. But on the other side of the coin, what about companies uh, that are actively trying to win the business of ICE, for instance? So, who? What does ICE need? ICE needs restaurants and hotel rooms. And we don't want people to starve to death, or not immediately. But they have to. There are great stories through the summer that I recall of. I love the cruise, especially in Chicago, where local citizens would have the whistles, and they would, anytime an ICE operation was going on in a particular area, everybody would pull out the whistles and start blowing them to alert their neighbors of the presence of ICE in their residences or workplaces, and let everybody know that there's something going on, and heads up. Also, there were also in Los Angeles, there were groups of citizens that would learn of a hotel where ICE was staying, where a number of officers were spending the night, trying to get a good night's sleep. And our brothers and sisters in Los Angeles went out with pots and pans and made sure that they did not get a particularly restful night's sleep, which is it's a free country, or is ish. But that's free speech, and if you want to protest a particular company's providing services to a government function that could be characterized as a fascist enterprise, if you want, as a citizen, as a taxpayer, if you want to voice your exception to that, do it. There are laws about criminal trespass. There are laws about, oh, yeah. I mean, there are, it depends where you are. It depends what you're doing. Or you don't want to impede law enforcement in the execution of a valid warrant. You know, the judicial warrant versus the administrative warrant, and you don't want to, you may be a parent, you may be a caretaker, you don't want to put yourself in harm's way, but if you can join with other citizens and say, there was a Hilton franchise in Minnesota, I believe in Minneapolis, but I could be wrong. But it's a franchise now. No, Hilton doesn't. Hilton, like Marriott, the two largest companies, don't own the real estate for those enterprises. Those are, franchises, licensees, just various business relationships. They're run by management companies largely, and they put the Hilton name on, and um, they take advantage of the strength of the res system. and that of course that part of the business has changed so much since I was still when I began in hospitality in the into the 70s. So the importance of that function, of course, evolves over time because so much of reservations are going to be handled by AI, and there is not a room full of what was then uh, uh, largely women in a call center, the equivalent of the time handling reservations and things. Okay. So I digress. In January, this this month, January 2026, there was a situation in Minnesota where ICE was spending the evening, their officers, at a particular Hilton product, well, Hilton Garden Inn or otherwise, um, and residents took exception, and Hilton pushed back. And they said, "Listen, we have to provide accommodations to all law-abiding citizens, and your money is as good as the next guy's, and as long as you are not endangering the other residents of the hotel, then we need to, it's ye host. We have to we look forward to accommodating guests. That's what we're in the guest business. So it's a it's a interesting dilemma where local citizenry, if they found out that the hotel down the street was putting up ICE officers, they may take exception, just as the business owner, which in that case is a local person, not Hilton Home Office. But there are two sides to every story, and tensions are high because of the non-democratic nature of the executive branch and the tremendous upset people in the hotel industry, the leaders of those larger companies of Hilton and Marriott have been under pressure themselves because they're trying to run a business and their employees, let's just say, are in depending on the jurisdiction, maybe a 50% of their employees, excuse me, are people that that crackers would characterize as black and brown people or other diverse communities. And because of an indiscriminate enforcement of ICE and the other police functions of the federal government are grabbing up people that turn out to be American citizens, and that's not fake news. That's every day. Then you're running a business and you're trying to protect your employees while not wanting to run afoul of the federal government. I mean, run afoul of the Trump administration all day, every day, as far as I'm concerned, because they are, they are anti-democratic and harmful to our country and all the principles that our country was founded upon. But people still have to pay staff, employ staff, feed staff, and staff needs to take that pay home and feed their kids. So it's tough, and I think about that a lot as we're now officially not fake news. We're officially in 2026. What's going on this year? World Cup, right? I'm in. I am located as tell on on a rainy day. What the meteorologist may or may not say, uh, pissing down sleet and snow kind of day in northern Massachusetts, but not far to my south. There will be teams playing that game that some of you folks call football, that I call soccer. And there are teams such as Ghana, who are going to be featured in the greater Boston area, playing against other teams. Maybe Colombia. I may have gotten that wrong. I'm not a football slash soccer super fan. I may go to a game. I'm more likely to walk around Boston to the enjoy watching the other people enjoying a city that I love. Because people come to Boston. It is a diverse city. Uh, DJT, it's a DEI in neon, flashing and thriving. It always will. Today and long after you are gone, in any sense of the word. So Boston, with all of the universities and the different sorts of employers and the rich history. And so all of these folks, you think of, a bunch of young men from Ghana who may or may not have the wherewithal to travel frequently to American cities and visit and partake of all of the other things that are going on besides practice. It's like the Olympics, which we also have in the United States in 2 years later in 2028 in Los Angeles, right? The Summer Olympics. And those events are what I call, DEI rock stars. Those show the beauty and the importance of diversity. Because if you look at any team, whether it's at your workplace or on a playing field or on a balance beam doing things that I could never dream of doing. If there's not a lacrosse stick involved, then it ain't happening. Yeah. So we live in this. I live in this beautiful city that's having this DEI DEI with a starring role in these huge international events. And what's going to happen? We don't know. Now, business leaders, I'm sure, have been contacting after seeing the horror shows that went on in Chicago, Portland, Los Angeles, Charlotte, right here in Boston on a smaller scale for now, and other cities, mostly blue cities with blue mayors, because it's really about law enforcement. It's not about DJT's grievances, right? It isn't. It's coincidence that his enforcement is focused on Democratic cities with Democratic mayors. And oh, by the way, the majority of them, the ones that he's been hammering in Los Angeles, Chicago, right, are mayors that are members of diverse communities. Black mayors in Los Angeles, in Chicago, a beautiful and brilliant Asian mayor, city of Boston, Michelle Wu, who would be today a much better president than Donald J. Trump, but obviously she wouldn't take the job now because she loves the city of Boston. And somebody would have to, get rid of all the gold leaf and, disinfect the place for a few months before I'm sure she would agree to set her foot in the White House. So that would take some doing just to get the stink off of it. and the special sauce, and he's the same guy that was throwing Big Macs at the wall and making his butler clean it up in Trump 1.0. So, anyways, I'm going to steer back at collective action, but the things that we can do as citizens have to do with DEI makes is plays a prominent part in that because companies such as companies doing it poorly, companies doing the wrong thing, and you can take your Milton Friedman toilet paper and stuff it wherever you care to, right? The companies that make bad decisions, like Target, like John Deere, like Tractor Supply, like some other companies, um, Walmart walking the line, that roll back just because the president gives them a permission slip and provides a permission structure to roll back policies that are give any consideration for historical inequities, like a DEI policy. It's reprehensible. People will remember, and you should be ashamed of yourself. So, in the case of Target, substantial economic impact because people said no. You roll back your DEI policies, you roll back hiring, not not favoring people from diverse communities, just leaving the door open, just being a good human, just doing what is so magnificent about he said facetiously that the Bible thumpers always talk about the importance that Jesus plays in their life, and then they discriminate against other people, other Americans, based on the color of their skin. That's what they call hypocrisy. That's if you look at State Representative James Tallarico in Texas, he'll tell you about it every single day because he's a real man of faith that practices what he indeed preaches. Fantastic example, leading by example, as opposed to what's coming from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Pennsylvania Avenue. Thank you. And of course, we want to reward the companies that do a great job. I've mentioned before, Costco goes out of their way to make sure that their policies reflect the morals, hopes, values, and aspirations of their teams and of the communities they live in, they work in. So we would love to reward such companies for making the effort. And what I love about Costco, there isn't, you know, um, virtue signaling. Yeah, not necessary. Do the right thing. But Costco, their leadership, their teams do make a point of, if not blowing their own horns, making it quite obvious that behaving in an ethical way is also good for business. And they've shown that to be true because they're winning. People that are no longer shopping at Target, at Amazon, at Walmart, at other places have to shop somewhere. And I would argue that that has worked to the benefit of Costco's bottom line. You know, Remember, Costco's a great place. It's wonderful. You don't always have room for 17 cases of toilet paper or paper towels, or and it's not free. It's just cheaper in bulk. You know, big bucks. So, so what you can do, in the spirit of collective action, is to, collectively get together. You live in a condominium, send a group text like, "Hey, on the first business day of every month, I'm going to Costco, and if anybody would like me to pick up something for you, I'd be happy to do it. And if anybody would like to split a the, the deal of the month is the 66 pack of paper towel, whatever it tends to be, a frozen chicken, of chicken wings, Super Bowl's coming, of whatever that is, I'll give you 50% of the 66, and we'll split it, right? It's a great way to do it. You save money, and the collective part of collective action is satisfied for the day. The most important, the second most important element to collective action, the first being F and do it, to actually take that step. I canceled my Amazon Prime. Not yay me, not 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 looking for congratulations, but that was something I had that I could do. I just realized recently, don't use it, but attached to my account, there's there's a store card or a credit card, right? Those are not, there's not a bank of Amazon that's run by Synchrony or Chase, or either a bank or some other sort of financial services company. I'm going to eliminate that and do that any possible way that I can, because I don't need to do anything to support the people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg. I don't need to support them. They don't need my money. You've probably read, they don't have $1 billion, right? They have multiples of it. In the case of Elon, his net worth, number one, going fluctuating between himself and Larry Ellison, who we're going to come to later this week, because the TikTok deal needs a refresher, and I now, as of the 31st of December of this past year, meaning all of however many days ago, I became a TikTok user for the first time, because I want to know what it's about, learn a little bit about I have some younger children. I want to know about what's going on there. But what I've learned so far is that, watching how the algorithm works, I'm not a computer scientist. I'm not a data engineer, but don't see so good, or well, but I can understand certain things. There's another technical term. There's a shit ton of Trump administration puffery on TikTok. Oh, gracias a Dios, Señor Trump, our beautiful friends from Venezuela, or AI generated people or animals speaking in terms of fluffing and puffing one DJT because he needs fluffing and puffing 24/7. That's the way that he lives, is by people telling him how great he is. Um, you know, so TikTok and Nicolas Maduro, bad guy. Lots of bad guys all over the world. The man that gives Donald J. Trump his daily directions, Vladimir Putin, also a bad guy. Xi Jinping, tough guy. Bad? I don't know him. Putin has a track record. So we're gonna circle back to TikTok later this week, but on the social media platforms, the tremendously wealthy men like my comparison that got me on the tangent was Elon is head to head, depending on the week and the month, with Larry Ellison as the most wealthy man in the universe. I mean, I lo- either one of them wins the number one spot. I lose because they're despicable human beings. And what the Ellisons are doing at the behest of Trump and the authoritarian regime, right? They went in to do a regime, to kill a regime in Venezuela. But the regime that they are uh, perpetuating, that they are promulgating here in the White House, is more dangerous than anything that's going on in Miraflores in Caracas. Much more dangerous because it has more power, more influence, more wealth, and he can direct large American corporations to do whatever he tells them to do. He can extort American research universities to stop doing cancer research, which he's done. So, uh, if you are somebody, yeah, I may have mentioned that cancer has touched me personally in a not a profound way because I'm here talking to you. Other people not as fortunate. Right? We all know people that the end of the story came too soon, and with that horrible disease, and we're hopeful that AI is going to help us get to a cure uh, sooner. Right? But to think that an American president, because of his grievances, has decided to interfere with cancer research with his flunky, RFK Jr., to interfere with cancer research, put aside the tremendous damage that's being done outside of the United States. Tens of thousands of people are dying needlessly because of cuts to USAID. Your boy, the diminutive Secretary of Everything, Marco Rubio, will tell you that the spigots got turned back on USAID. And I would say that that is true. But like so many things with the Trump administration, it ain't the whole truth because they shut it off and they turned it on 10%. Right? So people are dying because of the decisions that they made. Are they saving money or are they redirecting the funds and frittering it away on naval deployments? It's $1 billion right there. Adventurism in the Caribbean will we'll hit $1 billion by the 15th of January. So, congratulations. If you're spending the money elsewhere, you're not saving money. You're you're shifting priorities, and I would argue that your priorities are bullshit because so many of the priorities are based on the grievances of a diminished chief executive who has racist tendencies. So that's the priorities are going to match the man, and the man is not someone you would want to match. Right? So back once again, we'll wrap up and say good day on collective action. And it's Starbucks. It's the employees of an organization, a publicly traded company like Starbucks, wanting to organize, to form unions, for baristas to have protections, for baristas to be able to get some part of their healthcare covered, for them to have the protections regarding, um, you know, scheduling and things like that. And all of those types of things, whether it's DEI, unionization, or in the rights of employee groups to collectively bargain more generally. And that's not just forming a union, that's just standing up for what's right. That's contrary to the Republican Party. That's contrary to the Trump administration, right? It's contrary to fascist regimes around the world because that gives power to the many, while the few at the top, the 1%, want to keep that power for themselves. It's, a story as old as time. And when you layer in the vast amounts of corruption brought in by the Trump administration, it's bad for employees. It's bad for consumers. So that's that's how we get to that. One final point, just because I read about this is collective action related energy. Think about this as you watch your electricity bill. Here in the Northeast, where I'm closer to New Hampshire than to Boston, north on the water, very pretty, very nice, kind of cold in the winter, but it's wonderful. Um, as you hear, your electricity bill goes down a little bit in the winter because your AC is running less, but your natural gas bill, which we do a lot of that here, there's still homes that are heated by home heating oil, which is when I was a kid, the truck would pull up and it was one of the coolest things that ever happened to my 7-year-old life was the oil truck pulls up, dude jumps out and pulls the hose out of the back of the truck and runs it up to the side of the house, hitches it on, and fills up the oil tank. I'm like, that is absolutely freaking cool. That's fun. Yeah. So the bills fluctuate depending on, in my lifetime, uh, depending on home heating oil is some different grade than gasoline, etc. But those things fluctuate based on other other inputs, other global economic phenomenon. Pro- gas pay, gas prices go up. Home heating oil prices go up and down. Natural gas fluctuates. depending on whether Vladimir Putin is using a ship to cut the lines that run from Norway to wherever the hell, probably the Ukraine. Though that affects the price, and what's going on with our favorite gold-loving Middle East potentates, depending on what they're drinking with their what they're drinking with their lunch, and who they're drinking it with, and what their relative age is. Those things are fun. What we know for sure about AI, AI requires data centers. Data centers require immense amounts of water and electricity, right? And if they were the popular, when companies like Meta and Google and the rest of them started to, and you hear the commercials still that, oh, hi, my name's Bill, and I live in Jonestown, and the best thing that ever happened to my town was Meta's coming to build a data center. There's going to be, in Trump terms, there's going to be 1 trillion jobs created forever. And trucks are going to drive down the street, and people are going to be throwing Bitcoin out of the back of the trucks. It's going to be great for everybody. Data centers are going to change our lives. Best day ever. Best ever, right? Breaking news. It turns out that data centers employ very few people. They require a high degree of technical proficiency that usually necessitates people coming from outside of your municipality to do the planning and construction of the data centers. They'll hire on a few local um, plumbers and electricians to get it all set up, wired up, and tested. And then guess what? A data center is there to support AI. Who's going to be running the data center? Yeah, essentially non-humans, or monitored collectively from a distance. Oh, Zuckerberg's backyard, where he has his tech madrasa going there that his neighbors are so excited about. So few jobs for a very short period of time. And what you and I, it's not going to happen in my neighborhood, but in Mississippi, they're building it in red states, in poor communities where people feel that they don't have collective action, that they don't have the strength to push back, or the economics of their particular area. Things are so desperate that they want to believe that these men will help them. They want to believe that DJT, your altruistic and kind president, is going to take time out of his day because he hears me. He understands me, DJT does, right? Because he's like me. And he wants me to be rich, so I'm going to be rich. And these data centers are just the beginning. So they come into the community. They're built out. They operate. You hear a hum in the background of your community for the rest of time. I kind of made that part up because I've never stood or tried to sleep next to a data center. But the one thing I know for sure is it's going to impact the cost of your electricity, right? And it's going to impact what in many places is a a scarce and diminishing resource, which is water. So the data centers need to be the equipment needs to be cooled. That's water, and the data center needs to be powered. That's electricity. And there's only one grid. And Zuckerberg is not going to. Although we should make them scheme out the power and provide their own before they build a data center, but it won't happen because of corruption. So you're the grid and spread it out over the entire 7 county area of Mississippi, which I just made up, is on a grid, and the data center is going to pull an amount of electricity that is equal to 1/4 of the entire state energy usage in kilowatt hours. Right? Actual results may vary, but it's a lot. And when there's this whole another thing that is not fake news is supply and demand. And if you got scarcity, then the price is going to go up. That means your electricity bills, you get, you have 100 friends, as if, but one of your 100 friends, an electrician from the town next door, got 4 months of work building the data center. Excellent. That's fantastic. But then he's moving on to other jobs, and the data center doesn't need anybody until it blows up and and burns. Yeah, uh, but the need for the energy will only increase or stay static, but it will cost you. So you will be getting no benefit because they also give these data centers. Uh, they waive income tax for the land. They waive all sorts of fees. They also skip over like DEQE, Department of Environmental Quality Engineering, right? The government group, which, oh, wait a minute, Donald Trump just destroyed 5 minutes ago, but EPA, the state equivalent, that go in and they test the soil before somebody builds, but they also get a baseline to make sure that if they're polluting or negatively impacting your locale, there's a baseline and they can go in and say, hey, you told us that this iodine stuff that you're spilling into our soil doesn't kill the animals. And there's a stack of dead animals over there, uh, bud. So, yeah, uh, facetiously. But, uh, you know, in every case, when a powerful and with the help of the president, a corrupt enterprise comes into your city and says, don't worry, we take care of everything, right? We know Donald. This is going to work out great. So collective action means you can, before, when you get that first notice, and they don't want to publicize it, but in your town council, when the head of the Loyal Order of Water Buffaloes says, you know, next week there's a guy from Meta is coming to town to explain all the benefits of having a data center, then get everybody you know to go to the meeting and ask some questions. And you got to see, show me the work, right? That's it's because it'll impact your community until your grandkids are old. I mean, of course, they'll all be in space eventually with Elon hanging out in Mars, and the data centers will be beaming AI back to Earth from there with Elon controlling it. Actually, it's Larry Ellison controlling what you see, Larry Ellison controlling what your minor daughter sees in her TikTok feed. And he said, well, the American, the agreement that Donald Trump's agreement with TikTok was that China wasn't going to be involved in it anymore, is a complete and utter lie, untrue. And that is not just a one-off episodic observation by somebody too old for commentary on highly technical devices. It's the world. Xi Jinping is never going to release control over the TikTok algorithm. They are licensing the platform, giving Larry Ellison and company the right to run this very addictive toy in the United States and not follow the Supreme Court's edict to tear it down. I joined TikTok in my own little humble, I will say, but this is a hubristic statement, silly, really, that I joined TikTok in order to tear it down, right? My part. It's a collective action. I know. We'll end on this. I know. I'm not thinking. It wasn't something that a fairy, whatever kind of fairy you like, whispered to me in the middle of the night. TikTok does and will continue to damage the psychological health of our nation's youth. There is no debate. That is a fact. It's doing it now, and it will continue to do so. The analogy I made last week was that think about TikTok and fentanyl. And this is not making light of a desperately dangerous drug. I'll make fun about cocaine and unnecessary police actions in Venezuela because 80 people got killed and they won't be seeing their kids tonight or last night or anytime in the last week. But if you think of fentanyl, the real drug that kills people, and TikTok, the algorithm, are two things that are 100% in the control of the Chinese Communist Party. This is not casting dispersions on Chinese people, citizens, Chinese Americans, people of Asian descent, Chinese or otherwise. None of that. That is not what this is. This is a fact. The following fact is that the Chinese Communist Party can, if they wish to, affect the well-being of American citizens through the manipulation of an algorithm or increasing the amount of fentanyl that goes out the back door from China through Burma/Myanmar to Mexico, refined and sold and mixed in with various drugs, heroin, on the streets of America and killing people. So, are there bad actors in China, malign actors that would use those weapons in order to gain an advantage against some segment of the American population? That's for you to decide, right? But if you do the math, they have, I mean, you, if you want to think about motive and opportunity, which is kind of a silly way, it works great with like CSI, right? But simplify it in that way, do the math, and then say what's motive, what's their motivation, right? If they want to be the most powerful nation in the world with the ability to function, expand, do whatever they want with impunity, as Donald Trump does his best to corrode the remaining parts of the world order. China wants to win. Are there malign actors in the Chinese Communist Party, either now with President Xi, uh, with him, for him, after him, that would use these very dangerous weapons against American or Western European or Canadian citizens to gain advantage and to prove their dominance, to demonstrate the power they have to influence in a profound way the American people. It's a bad world. It's a bad world at 1600 Penn, right? It's a bad world in DC. So you say, are there malign actors in the world that would use those, weaponize those tools? Are there bad actors in Washington, D.C. that kill innocent civilians for entertainment or lust? Are there people in Washington, D.C. that would traffic underage male and female humans? I have it on good authority. There are people like that. So, on that cheery note, it's been a pleasure, a delight, and wish you all a good day. And we will catch you sometime tomorrow. Kindly, if you made it this long, kindly uh, restack, share with a friend. If you have a friend that doesn't do Substack, doesn't do Twitter, X, but they're only on Facebook, IG, TikTok, I'd appreciate it if you have a couple minutes and you have somebody that's, you're a young person, you're a young, smart person, you just came upon this channel and you said, "Well, okay, this guy, not my cup of tea. But my dad, who watches 60 Minutes and likes newsy things, he might like this. So turn your mom or dad onto it. Don't say grandpa, you'll make me cry, but you know that. Uh, uh, Share widely, much appreciated, and thank you very much for your time and a beautiful day. Thank you.